Even the other stations are tuned in too.
You're listening to Business Talk Radio, where we take business to the next level.
Today's show is sponsored by Dr. Jacalyn. Take charge of your life personally, financially, and professionally. Visit drjacalyn.com to book an appointment today.
Hello and welcome to Rapping with Dr. Jacalyn, live here on Business Talk Radio, Facebook Live, and YouTube Live. Our show is the Business Talk Show. And with me today is my co-host, Mr. Al Cini. Al, welcome back to the program.
Dr. Jacalyn, great to be back. Thanks for inviting me back. And I was just hanging out with the orchestra. They're very cool guys. I'm very impressed.
I'm very impressed with that, too. I've got a phenomenal video editor, so a big shout out to Mr. Al Cini.
It was fun.
So we've got a great program today because we have a special guest, a guest you've known for a long time, someone I've known for a year or so, and you guys are business partners. So why don't you tell us a little bit about him and about what you guys do there at BCAT, Brand and Cultural Alignment?
Sure. This is such a great opportunity for both of us. It's funny because we all work together at RVN TV. We do a lot of interviewing of other people, but we don't really get a chance to talk all that much about ourselves. And that's why I'm really grateful for this opportunity to talk about what Mark and I are doing together. And here's the nucleus of it. I mean, there are lots of instruments out there that will assess individual personalities. And companies use them all the time to give people a sense of who they are and help them communicate better with each other. But there's nothing out there that assesses the personality of a company or of a team or of a group. And what we've developed at the Brand and Culture Alignment is, among other things, a specific instrument that will measure the personality of a team. It could be a whole company. It could be a department within a large company. It could be a two-person partnership. And what that tells us, what that tells the members of that team is how far apart their vision is from each other and how in or out of alignment they might be relative to what it is they're trying to accomplish together. That becomes the beginning of a coaching process that pulls them closer together, really gets them all rowing in the same direction. It's an analogy we like to use. And when that happens, they make more money and they're happier at their work and they're more productive and they report better results. So that's what Mark and I do.
And that's really important because, as you know, we look at individuals and if they're in alignment with themselves, and then we look at the overall organization, but we don't look collectively at the employees together and as a team. So I think that's great work that you guys are doing. How did you get started?
Gee, and all that, I was a project manager at NBC for about 15 years. And, the typical approach a project manager takes in managing a project is to pull meetings together where people get blamed for not getting their work done on time. And it's not very motivating, and it doesn't really align people with their goals. And anyway, over the course of those 15 years, I managed some pretty large projects for NBC, and I got a rep for empowering and inspiring maybe 150 people to want to do something that they're not directly paid to do. And when we were doing all this, it was while the network was switching from broadcast analog television to digital television. And awful lot of stations needed to be changed, individual TV stations, the network itself needed to be changed. That was a lot of very focused project work on very tight timelines. The only way to do anything, really, the only way to really get people to do what needs to be done is to motivate them to do it. And that was what we did. So everything we're doing today is based on what I learned in that experience.
And how did you and Mark come together to organize this company?
Oh, we were introduced by a mutual friend. I think his horoscope had my name in it and my horoscope had his name in it. So I think we reached out to each other. Mutual friend introduced us. And Mark's particular angle on this is the marketing benefits of alignment. And my angle on this is the behavioral or let's say project management benefits of alignment. So together we've developed the program to be something that'll help you with your sales, with your marketing, and also with your internal branding. How do we get everybody inside your company all together around the same goal and inspired by and focused on the same goal?
And that's so important. We've talked before, we had another guest on about how the silos exist in organizations still today with marketing and sales. And one doesn't know what the other one's doing. And a lot of times they're looking at each other as competitors for budgets.
Well, and his point too. That was Dean Carroll, our interview last week. Great guy. His point too, in making that point, was that in a competitive world, in a world like COVID, how can you afford to have your own people competing with each other? It's hard enough to be competing with the other people you need to compete with in the marketplace than to have all those fights going on all the time. So, and what we found with BCAT is that the need to argue is kind of something that's built into people. But the more people have something to look at that is bigger than themselves, the more they're committed to a goal, the less pointless arguing they do. When they argue, it's to try to improve each other. It's not to try to stop or halt each other. So getting people from being passive aggressive to being supportive is really one of the goals we shoot for.
And I've shared with you that most of my corporate career was actually in driving behavior change with people. So employee recognition, getting people as brand ambassadors for your organization. So I think sometimes businesses, even small business owners, they might take brand and cultural alignment for granted. And we realize that that needs to be a key priority. What do you think about that?
I think that's a good point. I think the work you used to do and still do really as a coach is really about helping people find their purpose and then commit themselves to it and devote themselves to it. All we've done is wrap a little bit of science around what we know everybody wants, which is to love their work. In fact, one of the people that I was talking about with a couple of months ago when we were discussing BCAT, he said, so in other words, you guys have solved the I hate my job problem. And I hadn't really thought of it that way. But yeah, I mean, it's not that people hate their jobs so much as that their jobs don't appear to have a point to them. When people's work has a point or a purpose, then it doesn't matter how hard or easy or difficult or complicated it is. They love the work because of where it takes them. And, reminding people that there's joy in work is part of what we both do, really. You and I and Mark, we all three of us really are in that line of work. We do it from a group point of view. You do it with individuals.
Yes.
During COVID, that's very important, isn't it? I mean, what are you seeing in the people you're coaching these days, especially now that they're totally separated physically from each other?
I am finding, at least this week, I had 2 new clients, and people are really struggling with anxiety, depression, overeating, over drinking, arguing with other people, and just really being in a state of upsetment. Politics, people are just being consumed with the election that's coming up. So I'm finding there are a lot of common themes, regardless of who it is I'm working with, whether I've been working with them before or they're a new client. It's all focused around fear, anxiety, and depression.
Well, I watched the debate last night. I guess you did too.
I did.
And it was very calming and very relaxed. And I was amazed at how civil everybody was. And it's just reassuring to know that that level of debate still exists. I don't know. You'll probably get 10 new clients out of that.
My clients from yesterday, 2 of them who are really highly charged up about certain person, I said, please do not watch the debate. You are only going to do yourself harm by watching it. So just let it go. But
just let it go.
I was wondering, before we take a commercial break and bring Mark out, if you can just share, what does it look like to engage with BCAT? So somebody is interested in working with you. What does that experience look like?
It's first of all, there's a very brief goal setting process that only takes about 15 or 20 minutes. It's a conversation on the phone. Often we do that before we do any billing because we want to make sure we're a good fit for whoever it is that is considering using us. But then after that, what we do is invite everybody in the organization to take a 15-minute survey online. And as everybody does that, and they do this working separately, what they're really doing is creating in their minds the personality profile that represents their organization's best work on their best day. What that gives us back are all the data points we use that essentially guide and motivate the next couple of conversations, the goal of which is to identify what Mark named, which is really the North Star. What we found is what we're doing really is basically asking everybody in the company to hang the North Star for this company in the sky where everybody can see it. And that's what we get. What results from all this is a North Star hanging in the sky of the internet that everybody sees as their goal on their team. It's a lot of fun.
I love that. I mean, you can just visualize that right away. That's really terrific. So
yeah, that's all Mark.
I'm excited to bring Mark out, but first we're going to take a commercial break. So stay with us here on Rapping with Dr. Jacalyn, live on Business Talk Radio, Facebook Live, and YouTube Live. We'll be right back.
Hey everybody, my name is Ralph Graves Jr. I'm the host of the Ralph Graves Jr. Show, and I want to invite you to pick up my book, Unstoppable. I wrote a book called Unstoppable. It's 7 universal laws that will transform how you pursue and achieve success. The one thing that my 20 years of law enforcement has taught me is that no matter who you are, we are all governed by universal laws, like gravity. But in this book, we're going to talk about laws like the law of forgiveness, laws like the law of control, the law of intelligent practice, the law of expectancy. I was able to see how those, no matter what their background was, those who identified and treated these laws with respect, they were able to go on and lead successful lives. So pick up this book, and you can go ahead and pick it up at Amazon.com, BarnesandNoble.com, RalphGravesJr.com, where anywhere where fine books are sold. Thank you.
There are 7.7 billion people on Earth today. 40% of these people are under the age of 25. Young adults are the most fertile mission field in the world today. In Scripture, we see Jesus pouring his life into 12 young adults who he equipped to change the world and all of history. Like Jesus, we believe that the best approach to reach the world with the gospel is to invest in young, emerging leaders and equip them to build disciple-making movements. Concentric is the notion of surrounding and sharing a common center. Our center is the model and strategy of Jesus for both leadership development and ministry formation. As a global alliance, we provide equipping in biblical leadership based on Jesus' example in the New Testament. Jesus modeled for us how to make disciples that reproduce. Focusing on leadership development is key to creating movements that spread the gospel and Jesus' disciple-making strategy to young leaders around the globe. Our Ministry Alliance partners are actively equipping leaders and building movements of multiplication that reproduce the life of Christ. Join us today to equip young leaders with Jesus' strategy that will change cities and nations.
The session that we had with BCAT was really entertaining and enlightening. We were able to put together some very specific steps that we as individuals can take, and it was really fun to all come together and see sort of where we're going as a team and how we can all get there together.
We had a tremendous experience with the BCAP partners. One of the challenges that we have as an organization is to make sure that we have the right people in the right chairs doing the right thing. To do that well, you have to have synergy. You can try to dream up ways to make sure that your group does that, or you can rely on experts. We would recommend BCAP partners to anybody who's looking to take their organization to the next level.
Academy Sedan and Limo is a full-service transportation company serving the Philadelphia metropolitan area with full knowledge of the New York City, Baltimore, and Washington, D.C. areas. We pride ourselves on being the most dependable, conscientious company in the industry. Our always on-time service and dependable pricing make us the company to call for any event or occasion. Our vehicles can accommodate any size party for any occasion. Our vehicles range from four-door sedans to SUVs to minivans to limo buses to full-size tour buses and can accommodate groups of 2 to 100. We offer airport shuttle service or over-the-road service without limitation regarding mileage or time, and no drive is too long or too far. So if you find yourself in need of transportation of any type with any vehicle, give us a call at 610-842-4564 and let us show you what a real transportation company can do for you.
Use code ACADEMY2020 to receive 20% off your first 3 rides, including parking and tolls.
Make a bold statement by wearing a custom jewelry design from Margie Cedrone, Artisan Jeweler, located at 121 Haddon Avenue in Westmont, New Jersey. Telephone number 215-384-7155. Margie Cedrone is an artisan jeweler who who has been a permanent fixture on the renowned Jewelers Row in Center City, Philadelphia since 1988, starting her business in 1982. All of Margie's designs are individually handmade as well as custom design. She's one of the only jewelers left in the area who still crafts the finest tailor-made diamond jewelry, whether it's a statement piece or an everyday item. In addition to her one-of-a-kind designs, she specializes in pearl stringing and bead jewelry repairs. Margie Cedrone Jewelry pairs nearly 30 years of experience with the building of lifelong client relationships. Dr. Jacalyn has been a client and friend of Margie Cedrone for many, many years. Each week during my show, Rapping with Dr. Jacalyn, live on Business Talk Radio, I will be featuring one of the beautiful pieces of jewelry that Margie custom made for me. I urge you to contact Margie through her website, margiecedronejewelry.com. Wait no longer to make your own bold statement.
Ladies and gentlemen, here it is. The most listened to radio show on the planet. Even the other stations are tuned in too.
You're listening to Business Talk Radio, where we take business to the next level.
Well, hello and welcome back. Rapping with Dr. Jacalyn, live on Business Talk Radio, and I am joined by my co-host and partner, Al Cini, managing partner of Brand and Cultural Alignment. And Al, I'll give you the honors of introducing our guest today.
Well, my other managing partner is named Mark Iorio. Mark, welcome to the program. It's great to see. It's been too long, Mark. Welcome to the
about
program.
an hour and a half, Al. Thank you. Dr. Jacalyn, great to see you again, too.
Thank you. It's great to see you. We were all together this morning. But just to give you the proper introduction, you are a managing partner for Brand and Cultural Alignment, also known as BCAT, and you are the RVN television talk show host of Rainmakers Roundup, Team Talk, and Morning Coffee. And for those out there who are not aware, RVN TV is located in Cherry Hill, New Jersey. And you can find any of his shows on Roku, Apple TV, and Amazon Fire. So, Mark, welcome to the program.
Thanks, Dr. Jacalyn. Great to be here. Al, good to see you.
Well, nice to see you, Mark. Why don't we start? During the run-up to the program, I mentioned that it was your idea to represent what we do at Brand and Cultural Alignment as a North Star. Mm-hmm. Talk about that. Where did that come from? I thought it's such a great idea.
Yeah, I think a lot of times, Al, Dr. Jacalyn, organizations really do not have a purpose or a direction. And we used to talk about putting a stake in the ground and, where are we going as a group? Where are we going as an organization? And everyone, at least in the Northern Hemisphere, everyone understands looking north. If you're lost, if you're trying to navigate, if you're trying to find your way, the best way to do that is by looking at the North Star. Remember an analogy that I believe it was Stephen Covey talked about years ago in his first book, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, talking about being out in the ocean without anything to navigate by. But the only thing you had was that North Star. Where are you going? Without that, you're just kind of meandering all over the place. And that's what we find that, a lot of companies frankly do. They meander all over the place. So if they look at this North Star, at least they have a direction, a definitive, clear-cut direction as to where they're going.
And, I don't know how often we've found this. We've done about, I think, 8,740 separate surveys in the 6 years we've been working together on this, 6 or 7 years we've been working together on this. And that's a lot of data points. And it's one thing to talk about this thing called a North Star, which if you're actually physically navigating really exists. But it's another thing by analogy to talk about North Star when it's kind of an abstract concept, when it represents the purpose of an organization. And the cool thing about what we do together is we actually create data and use science to make that visualized North Star actually appear in the sky. And we get it out of the minds of the people that are participating.
Yeah. Yeah, well, as you said, I mean, you're the brains behind the IP with brand and cultural alignment, Al. As a behavioral psychologist, basically, I mean, what we do is we get everyone into a room and get them, not physically always, but maybe even virtually online, to take a survey and understand who they are as a company. We ask them, the incorporating question is to ask them to visualize their organization as though it were a single person doing its very best work on its best day, fulfilling all of its promises and all of its goals and achieving all of its goals. And that is a very, very difficult concept initially to grasp. Oftentimes we ask people to take it a second, maybe even a third time, because when they think about certain words, certain phrases that come to mind, and they think about an organization that might be very assertive or very creative or very specific in terms of analytics or very nurturing, certain parts of your brain light up when you think about those words and speak those words and use that vocabulary. So that's the science, the neurological science behind a BCAT, and we try to get everyone in the organization on that same page, and that's the beauty of the process.
How does that work from a marketing point of view, Mark?
It's a great question. Now, I think part of it is that when you look at organizations, especially from a marketing perspective, they might have, you can visualize this, even in smaller companies, where emails are very different. You look at a signature for an email, very different from another person. You look at a website, from page to page, very inconsistent language from, say, a printed brochure. What we do is we say, listen, here is a brand, what ends up coming out of BCAT and the process is a brand positioning statement, which has language that is specific to that organization. And what we ask an organization to do is to follow that language, not verbatim, but we ask them to follow it consistently throughout all of their program literature, all of their content, all of their collateral, no matter what it is, the way they speak to each other as well. So it permeates all of sales and marketing, and it does it in a consistent and relevant fashion.
Wow. Well, Dr. Jacalyn, I'm going to draw you into this because often what we do is provide a baseline for something that you might be able to use as a coach. It is definitely important, I think, for a coach to work with an individual to help them become the best they can possibly be. What we do is to create a picture of that best that you can possibly be in the context of your membership in a specific team. So if you think about it, it's not just coaching you to be a better person. It's coaching you to be a better member of, a better person in the context of this group that you're a member of. We give you that baseline information, and then you work with your client to coach toward that goal, if it makes sense.
Absolutely. Yes. I'm aware of the fact that there are organizations who bring in coaches to try to get each of the team members in alignment with whatever they've committed to. And so I'm just wondering, from a coaching perspective, I typically give people homework, and the homework is basically to show that they are engaged and they are making a personal commitment for whatever it is the change is that they're looking to make. And I'm wondering, how does that work at BCAT? Do individual team members have certain things that are assigned to them, or do they commit to be part of the team and carry the torch, so to speak, for whatever their role is?
Yeah, thank you. That's a layup question.
It's a good
It
question.
wasn't Brando.
It's a great one. Mark, you want to give that a shot?
That's a great question, Dr. Jacalyn. So yes, I will, Al. You can fill in where I missed, but basically what happens is once you have that North Star, and we get these 4 attributes or so in an organization: language, visuals, attitude, behavior. The people, each individual within the organization makes a personal alignment plan commitment This is toward the end of the process, where they commit to doing 2 or 3 things every single day that will get them closer to that North Star or roll target. We call it a roll target in BCAT as well. People understand North Star, but we call it a roll target. So, what are the 2 or 3 or 4 things that you can do every single day to get closer to delivering on that brand promise, whatever that happens to be? And the coach, in this case, you, Dr. Jacalyn, would be able to coach each individual toward that goal, right? So, and the beauty of this is that we're not picking on people individually or making judgments of them individually. We are talking to them about where they are relative to the North Star. So if I'm saying that I will commit to better communication with my colleagues by listening more intently, by writing things down, by repeating what they said to me in order to, communicate a little bit better within my team or the scope of my team, then that gives you as a coach a very specific way to help them reach that goal.
And hold them accountable and get them to tell you how they're doing on that goal. And I mean, it's that, Mark, that was great. I really can't add very much to that at all, except that from a scientific point of view, what we've found is that every really cohesive organization, no matter how small or large, has at its heart a role model that represents its best self on its best day. It's not one of the members of the organization. It's an ideal personality, a kind of a persona that represents all of us when we're really working together to deliver the goods for the group that we serve. And the really powerful part of it is it's not just the people, it's not just the workers who make these personal alignment plans. It's also the managers, the bosses, even the owner. Everybody could be more like this role model that represents the organization's best self on its best day, even the guy or woman who started the company. And there's a tremendous amount of power in just making everybody equally vulnerable without making them feel shamed or blamed in any way. You get to, we have this quote we use from Peter Senge: people really don't resist change. What they resist is being changed. When you tell people that they're wrong and that they need to change in order to be right, you're imposing a judgment on them that sets them up to argue with you. They want to defend themselves. But when you just sort of you give them a representative role model that we all agree is who we want to be more like, what we're really doing then is giving everybody the opportunity to just develop a plan on their own, in their own way, to be more like that role model. And we all learn, really, we become the people we are by emulating role models throughout our lives, finding people who impress us, borrowing some of their behaviors that we think work, adapting them ourselves to use more of them. That's always been how people become better. We just add a little bit of science and a certain amount of focus to it to do it in the context of a specific team.
Yeah.
I think the science piece of it is really important. In my former career, we were very much in alignment with human behavior, because at the crux of everything, people want to feel involved. They want to feel engaged. They want to feel empowered. And it sounds like that's exactly what you're doing at BCAT. So I can really think that this would help every company out there.
No, and I'm so glad you used that feel word, because a lot of people are kind of embarrassed to use that word. I mean, everybody thinks that emotions are bad things and that somehow we have to suppress all those feelings. And that's where mission statements come from. Every organization has a mission statement, but a mission statement is really just a collection of words that nobody ever really internalizes. What motivates behavior are feelings. If we're not all together on the same page with respect to how we feel, then it doesn't matter that we've all memorized the same 2 paragraphs and can recite the mission statement. We're not really on that mission unless we really feel that mission, if that makes sense. And I think a very important part of coaching is to bring people's emotions and feelings in line with the behaviors they need to express, and not try to suppress it, but use it. I mean, I think that's a contribution we make too.
Sure.
Absolutely. We have so much more to discuss, but we're going to take a break and hear from our sponsors. So stay tuned. We're wrapping with Dr. Jacalyn with Mark Iorio and Al Cini. We will be right back.
Thank you.
Have you just lost your job or have been laid off and you are looking to transition to a new job or career? Maybe you have even tried submitting tons of applications and yet you keep getting turned down for jobs you qualify for. Don't wait until you become overwhelmed with rejections when you can easily transition or get your dream job. Let MJW Careers guide you to the right career path and a better, brighter future. At MJW Careers, we know what hiring managers are looking for, and our goal is to land you the job you deserve. What makes MJW Careers a wonderful provider over other services is our pragmatic and scientific approach to resume writing. There are rules, there are visual cues, there are content best practices. We understand those and work within the boundaries to ensure our clients' messaging appeals to the decision makers. Our career consultants will help you transition into new roles quickly and effectively. With our experience in virtually every industry, we will provide direction in the frustrating job market by helping you write a customized, professional resume and prepare you for your interview as well. Join the great number of people we have helped scale up to greater things in their careers. Let us help you on your career journey. Come visit us, www.jobstickers.com, to learn more and grab a free resume review or ebook.
Ladies and gentlemen, here it is, the most listened to radio show on the planet. Even the other stations are tuned in too.
You're listening to Business Talk Radio, where we take business to the next level.
Today's show is sponsored by Dr. Jacalyn. Take charge of your life personally, financially, and professionally. Visit drjacalyn.com to book an appointment today.
Welcome back to Wrapping with Dr. Jacalyn here on Business Talk Radio, Facebook Live, and YouTube Live. I am joined today by Mark Iorio and my co-host Al Cini. Mark and Al are managing partners of Brand and Cultural Alignment, also known as BCATs. Gentlemen, a pleasure to see you again.
Oh, it's great to be back. And, I'm looking at Dr. Jacalyn at some of the comments from Facebook viewers, and one of them is I'm going to show it.
Does it say who it's from?
No, it just says Facebook user, which is maybe a little weird, but definitely true. There's no question about it.
Thank you. So. That made my day.
You notice we didn't get any of those out.
I'm not going to bring those up. The ones for us, Mark, are definitely going to stay off backstage. No point bringing those up.
I think we were having a really empowering conversation about human behavior and the science behind behavior in an organization and as part of a team. So it sounds like from the beginning of the discussion, you use surveys extensively, and then as a result of collecting the surveys and analyzing the information from the surveys, you're able to come up with a gap analysis or some idea as to where the organization is versus where they want to go. Mm-hmm. And then they work together to put together mission and vision statement, I guess. So where does it go from there, this process? It's really interesting.
From there, it goes into the hands of an expert coach, or it goes into the hands of a caring manager. You mentioned gap analysis, Dr. Jacalyn, and I think gap analysis sounds very cold and maybe a little sterile and scientific, but that's exactly what it is. There are a couple of gaps here that we try to measure and then try to close. The first gap that we measure is how far apart is everybody from each other. When we imagine ourselves as in an ideal way as doing our best work on our best day, do we all agree on that visualization? How far apart are our agreements with each other? So the first gap we identify and create something called an index of consonance. Are we all rowing in the same direction? We give you a statistical data point that tells us all how far apart we are. But the other gap, and the really critical gap, is now that we know how far apart we are from each other, when we all move, do we all want to move together to the average of who we are, or do we want to move together to something better than the average of who we are? That we call resonance. See, it's not enough that the organization is all singing from the same sheet of music. The organization also has to be singing music that their audience is willing to pay to hear. So they've got to be delivering for their marketplace. And by closing all those gaps, we bring people closer to the behavior that is best equipped to deliver the goods for the team that they work for. And we get great results from that.
Yep.
Absolutely. So what I'm wondering now, in 2020, the year of all years, when we seem to be in some ways so disconnected from each other and so insulated, and then our feelings are all building on top of each other. Are you finding that, I should ask, what are you finding as a result of working with companies during COVID and this presidential election year, and the fact that people have so many strong feelings that might be keeping them from working together as effectively as possible?
Mark, you found a great article from Gallup on that. Why don't you talk about that?
Yeah, so a couple of weeks ago, Dr. Jacalyn, Gallup came out with a study about the employee engagement numbers. They come out with a state of the American worker every 4 years. And generally speaking, employees are engaged at around 30%, 31%. It depends on, what state they're in, what part of the country they're in, et cetera, or what industry they're in. And a month ago, they reported that they did a very quick analysis of employee engagement, and it spiked. It actually had gone up from 31 to 37%. And a month later, it took a dive, and it just dropped straight down. Al's theory is that, during that period of time with COVID, is that a lot of people felt like, wow, here's an opportune time for my management team, my leadership team, to bring us all together and have us row in the same direction or sing from the same sheet of music. And when that did not happen, they became more disappointed in the organization and more disappointed in the leadership of the organization. I will tell you that parenthetically, what happens oftentimes, whether you walk into a bricks and mortar building or you go to your computer in your office at home and you put your company hat on in the morning, it's the same culture. Whether you walk through that door and drink from the corporate Kool-Aid water cooler, the flavor of the organization that you believe you are as a group, or you just simply go to your desktop or your laptop and put your hat on and drink the Kool-Aid there, it's the same thing. But the problem has been, as we talked about earlier, is that most organizations meander. Remember that analogy about the boat in the middle of a vast ocean without any compass. They meander. And you can't do that when you're trying to build a strong and decisive and definitive culture.
Now, I want to bring one of our viewers in, because we just got another Facebook message. I'm going to bring that up. Denny Cassidy, boy, it's thank you very much for this. I think I'm really glad you're resonating with the topic and into what we're talking about. And I want to go back to something that Dr. Jacalyn said before we started to talk, just at the beginning of this segment. You said now that we're in 2020 and everybody is kind of disjoint and separate from each other. That's true, but what we found is really hurting people isn't that they're separated from each other. It's that they become disconnected from their purpose, their collective purpose. So a lot of people think all you need to solve that problem is to reconnect people with each other. And they typically they solve that problem just by using Zoom, let's say. And what we're seeing, though, is that a Zoom meeting isn't enough. Just getting people together and having them commiserate with each other isn't enough to create engagement. What you need is to change the subject. So for free, without buying anything from us or without using any of the formal parts of BCAT, what we do is encourage people at their next Zoom meeting to start with the incorporating question. Who are we when we're doing our best work on our best day to reach to keep all of our promises and reach all of our goals? And then just give everybody on the Zoom call, and I mean everybody, don't overlook anybody. Give everybody on the Zoom call a chance to answer that question without judging any of the answers. What you learn from that is that everybody really does want to come together. They just don't know what to come together on. We always talk especially in an election year, about bringing people together in the United States. But nobody, if we don't all agree what the United States represents, how could we ever all possibly be together? I mean, if we have differences of opinion about what it means to be an American, those differences are always going to keep us apart. There needs to be an ideal bigger than Donald Trump or Joe Biden or any politician that all politicians are supposed to be the shepherd of. They're supposed to be the protector of. And that, to me anyway, is the ultimate goal of politics. It's to bring people together around an ideal where that ideal represents all of us as a large community of Americans.
Yep.
So
I think that makes a lot of sense.
All the time. We talk about that all the time. It's so frustrating. I mean, I guess everybody figures if you want to win a vote, you're going to do it by diving low. But there are higher ideals, I think, that actually appeal to voters. And I really wish we'd have politicians out there articulating those ideals.
Yeah.
I agree. And I think when it comes to organizations, one thing that's also really key, and I want to have you guys weigh in on this, is making sure you hire the right person, and that the people that you hire are people who want to grow with the organization and believe in the culture and want to, at their soul, be a brand ambassador for that organization.
Yeah,
that's a great point. Go ahead, Mark.
Yeah, I think we talk about this often as well. And you think about these brands that you come in contact with as a consumer. I like to use sports as an analogy, but we can certainly use a place like Tiffany or any other, Margie's jewelry store in Westmont, Dr. Jacalyn. But the point is that in those organizations, you want to be a part of that organization. You're attracted to that organization. You will buy from that organization for the very same reason that you want to go work for that organization. And the reason I like to use the Yankees organization, the New York Yankees organization, is because it's not about the pinstripes. It's not about the interlocking NY on their jersey. It's about the way they do business all the time, beginning to end, front office to every single person in that organization. When you become a Yankee, you do things that are consistent with the Yankee brand. You go to work for Tiffany, you do things that are consistent with the Tiffany brand. You can only name a handful of companies in the United States at least, or even internationally, that have a consistent message where every single person in that organization does the right thing, right?
I think that's great.
That's true. And you know what, Mark, I just want to add on, because you mentioned Margie Cedrone. I've bought a lot of jewelry from Margie over the years. I have no idea how many carats, what size pearl, 14 carat. I don't know. I don't care. I get a piece of paper that says whatever it is. I don't know if the prices are on or they're off or they're high or they're low. All I know is that Margie does a consistent business. She has authenticity. She's ethical, and she has a great product. And so I look no further. That's where I buy my jewelry. And her brand to me is integrity. It's not jewelry. It's not diamonds. It's just what she stands for.
Yeah.
It's, when Mark talked about why people buy from you and why people want to come to work for you, being the same thing. That same thing is that we all want to be better versions of ourselves. So we gravitate toward brands, Margie Cedrone Jewelry, Southwest Airlines. The size does not matter. What matters is buying into that brand means that you're going to become you feel as though you're going to become a better version of yourself for making that decision, for making that choice. And I want to go back to your original question, which is, I think, really critical. Most people talk in terms of culture fit, which means we only want to find the people that are already members of our culture. In other words, they've already bought in. So we create a hiring process that selects out anybody who might not be, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's upside down. It's not about getting pegs to fit in holes. It's about creating a culture that is so compelling that people want to be a part of it, even if they're not. What you're really looking to tap into aren't people's skills necessarily, but their dreams, because their dreams are where their hearts are, and their hearts are where the work is.
Yeah.
You want to, and when you become a Yankee, and Mark loves to talk about this analogy because it's so true, the Yankees change you. Yeah, you're still a great hitter. You're still a great pitcher. You're still great on the field. Those skills are important. There's no question about that. But when you become a Yankee, you've achieved a level of perfection that other people envy, even if they're making more money. I mean, I really do believe everybody in baseball wants to be a Yankee, even if it means they make less money. And there are a lot of people who join the Yankees for less money because they're the Yankees.
If you look at Alex Rodriguez's personality prior to him coming to the Yankees, it's exactly what Al is saying here. He did not fit the typical mold of a New York Yankee, a Derek Jeter, a Thurman Munson, a Bobby Mercer, a Mickey Mantle, Joe DiMaggio, Babe Ruth, Lou Gehrig. They had a certain persona, and Alex Rodriguez was all about himself. It wasn't one of the reasons the Yankees do not have names on the back of their uniforms is because it's not about them individually. It's about the organization. It's about what's on the front, left chest. So that's what we're trying to get at here with the organization. So to answer your question in more specific detail, Dr. Jacalyn, it is really not trying to recruit the right person as much as it is to recruit people who will come into an organization and embrace the culture and then want to be a part of it and become better versions of themselves as a result of that.
Yeah.
I like that. Very well said.
Thank you.
Gentlemen, we have to take another commercial break and hear from our sponsors, but we'll be right back with Wrapping with Dr. Jacalyn. Stay with us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hey everybody, my name is Ralph Graves Jr. I am the author of this book called Unstoppable. Now what Unstoppable is about is it's 7 universal laws that will transform how you pursue and achieve success. Why don't you pick up your copy today? Go to my website, www.ralphgravesjr.com. Go to Amazon. This book is sold wherever fine books are sold anywhere in the country. My name is Ralph Graves. Let's be unstoppable together.
RVN TV is a platform for people of any industry to share their story. Over 285,000 viewers are tuning in to RVN TV shows monthly. We guarantee a great experience that you'll be sharing with everyone you know while increasing your personal and company's brand awareness. But what is your brand? According to Forbes, it's a combination of your logo, your product, your design and feel, and your personality. Did you know that aside from being a guest, we offer even more opportunity to boost your brand? Adding your company logo and website on screen during your interview will allow viewers to recognize your brand instantly. Incorporating images and video clips is another great way to showcase your product during your live segment. Let viewers see how good you really are. And most importantly, there's you and your interview. For less than the cost of a newspaper, direct mail, or a magazine ad, you can leave our studio and within 48 hours have a permanent digital copy of your live segment to link to your social media, embed into your company website, or use in email marketing. Investing in your brand is so very important, and we can't wait to have you as a guest.
Make a bold statement by wearing a custom jewelry design from Margie Cedrone, Artisan Jeweler, located at 121 Haddon Avenue in Westmont, New Jersey. Telephone number 215-384-7155.
Welcome back to the program, Wrapping with Dr. Jacalyn. My guest today is Mark Iorio, and my co-host, as always, is Al Cini. And Al and Mark are the managing partners of Brand and Cultural Alignment, also known as BCATs. Gentlemen, we're having a really lively discussion, and there are a lot of really good points that have been made here in terms of the importance of culture, number one, and also being in alignment, and also feeling empowered and a part of your team and your organization. So what else can you share with us about some of the outcomes that your clients have had in working with you?
Well, first of all, Al, I'll take a crack at it. You can jump in anytime you want. I'll always love your insight here. But I think in terms of what BCAT does and the process, Dr. Jacalyn, is that it is fully inclusive. And I'll say that one more time. It is fully inclusive. That means that every single person in the organization participates. Most of the other programs that you might see out there in terms of leadership development or individual assessment programs, they're not really geared for everyone in the organization. We're a little different because we make sure that everyone is included so that, look, if you feel like you belong and you want to participate and you want to feel inclusive, this is the company for you. If you feel like it's not really the place for you, you can certainly exit very gracefully, and it's happened to us often over the last 7 years. So we enjoy it. It's changed a lot of the way people look at brand and culture. In the very beginning, we used to hear this all the time that, this is really soft skills. Culture is really a soft skill. Well, when you start to look at what happens with employee engagement, and how employee engagement changes productivity and the way in which we work together as teams and include and break down those silos that you talked about on last week's show, other things start to happen. Remarkable things start to happen in your organization. People start to look at cost-cutting measures. People start to look at things like, hey, maybe I can increase revenue by doing something a little different than our salespeople are doing. So profits start to change. And as a result of that, what we've also seen is the value of the organization changes. It goes up. Out of those 8,500 or so data points, we only have a few hundred data points that allowed us to look at the balance sheet and the profit and loss statement for organizations. But there's certainly a very compelling before and after picture as to what happens prior to BCAT getting involved, and then after it sort of closes the process, which takes a while.
The big objective driver, the big objective scientific measure of success is compound annual growth rates. So in where we did have access to look at those numbers to confirm that what we did was effective, we saw a significant jump in compound annual growth rates in the organizations that measured BCAT versus their results. And we're talking mostly here about small and medium-sized businesses, and the change could be anywhere from an average growth rate of maybe 2 or 3% a year to up to 17 to 25% a year. And a lot of that, as Mark was saying, is because the really great ideas that make a difference are often in the minds of the people that answer the phones and push the mobs. Just that in most programs, we never go outside of the executive suite. We always imagine that the smartest people in the room are the people who are leading the organization. But the really amazing leadership examples are in people down in the organization who are actually close to where the work gets done. And if you give them a chance and a voice, you learn incredible, amazing, life-changing things from them that then become part of the way you work, where otherwise they would have just been completely ignored. And, when we say diversity, equity, and inclusion, we're serious about it. You want to include everybody in this dream that is us, this inspiration that makes us all want to come to work every day. There's a tremendous amount of power in people. You just have to look for it.
What are your thoughts about the diversity in terms of the generations, the different generations that are within an organization and how they want to work together or how they come with different perspectives?
I think that's a great question, Dr. Jacalyn. One of the things that we found over the years is that, it doesn't matter whether you're in your 20s, 30s, or 50s or 60s, you really want the same thing. A lot of us want the same thing. We want to feel like we're part of something bigger. We want to feel like we're included. We want to feel like we have a voice and the voice is heard, and the advice or our opinion is at least taken into consideration or into account. And when you have a specific purpose for an organization and everyone is included in that process, people start to feel like they're empowered to say things and to do things and to bring ideas to the table that ordinarily they might not want to because they haven't been asked or they haven't been spoken to in a manner and fashion that says, hey, I care for you, and I really care about the fact that you're part of my organization or our organization, and your opinion matters.
When you follow our process and get to the end, Mark, that was so important. When you follow our process and get to the end, the amazing things happen. You see people who've been with the company for 25 years making commitments like, I need to become a mentor to the younger people in this company. I need to stop competing with them. I need to start helping them. So the older people recognize that the younger people in the company might need a little guidance, and they make alignment plans to commit to offering it. And the younger people make alignment plans to pay more attention to the senior people in the organization because they're the ones with the experience. So when you see people who were in their 50s and 60s coming together with people who are in their sometimes late teens, early 30s, around that whole idea that somehow we can just all work together as though we were one team, that's when Mark and I just sort of step back and watch the magic happen. Yeah. And it doesn't happen because we make it happen. It happens because it's there. We just uncover it.
Right.
Yeah, I think for me personally and professionally, I really like learning from people of all different ages because each one of us has our own journey and picks up different experiences and different knowledge along the way. But I know there are definitely people who don't feel that way. So I think it's a matter of getting them to understand what the benefit is to them and also to the team and the organization. And once they see that, I think they're more likely to work together.
Those are real strengths.
This is not for everyone. I mean, this is a process. I was thinking about our interview and prepping last night. And one of the things that I thought about was that, you would think that, I think you said this earlier, Dr. Jacalyn, most companies need what we do here. I think most companies are probably not aligned. Their brand and their culture or EX, employee experience, and CX are not aligned, their customer experience. But this is not for everyone. You have to have the resilience and persistence, perseverance, stick-to-itiveness, vision to go through a process like this. This is a commitment to excellence. And Al said it earlier. We talk about this all the time. When whether it's personally, individually, or as a team, if you want to commit to become a better version of yourself, it takes an effort. It takes time. So BCAT and the process, not for everyone, but the people that are passionate about it and really want to make a change and make their organization better, we have a great relationship with those folks.
It's definitely.
And all they have to do is be willing to open the door and walk through it. And there you are at BCAT,
So true.
ready to help them. So I can't believe we are already at the top of the hour, gentlemen. This time has flown by. Mark, we would love to have you back again. Would you be open to that?
Sure, absolutely. I love this. This was great. Thank you both so much for inviting me.
Thank you so much for being here, and
for
thanks
coming.
for being great people. You were really both authentic and ethical, and just such wonderful hearts. So I really appreciate both of you.
Wonderful.
So that's a wrap for today on Rapping with Dr. Jacalyn, live on Business Talk Radio. A shout out to Chris at Business Talk Radio, broadcast engineer and also a host there. And thank you to our viewers on YouTube and Facebook. We will be back next week. Until then, stay safe and go ahead and contact BCAT. I have a banner for you. And there it is.
Wow.
GetBCAT.com, 855-999-2228. You can also find Al Cini and Mark Iorio on LinkedIn. So reach out to them and they will help change your world for the better.
All right.
Thanks again. Take care.
Thanks so much.
Thank you. Bye-bye.